The 2025 January transfer window is now well underway, and in today's video I'm going to bring you guys one player that every League 2 club must sell this transfer window. If you do go on to enjoy, make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. 200 likes on today's video will be massively appreciated, and don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. You'll know your club a lot better than I do, and obviously certain clubs need much more than one player to depart. And one of them clubs is absolutely Carlisle United. There was so many different players that I could have selected. In the end though, I decided to go with Josh Vela. I believe they brought him in from Fleetwood last January, didn't really light it up in League 1, obviously was given a pretty long-term contract by the football club, and you look at his time this season under different managers, even caretakers. I think he's had 3 different total managers if you count Paul Simpson, Mike Williamson, then the caretakers as well. 16 appearances, only 11 starts, played less than 1,000 minutes so far this season, but for a central midfielder to have no goal contributions, his passing stats aren't amazing, his defensive stats are really poor. I don't really see what he brings to the side, to be honest with you. It only means 36% of his ground duels, only 52% of his aerial duels. He has no outstanding stat whatsoever. He's probably one of the higher earners at Carlisle United, and with the length of his contract being there until the end of this season, why not just cash in now and try and get a little bit of money for him? He'll probably end up going to the National League, someone like a Forest Green, a York, an Oldham potentially could pick him up, but Josh Vela, I just don't see where the quality is in this player. Next up then, we go to Walsall FC, and Donervon Daniels has been a bit of a very good servant, you could say, for Walsall. I was not going to go down the legend route, but he's been a good servant. I do think now though is the right time for him to move on. Contracted until the end of this season, now 31 years of age, and has really struggled for minutes in the league so far this campaign. Just the 3 starts and 6 total appearances for him. I did actually watch him come on against Tranmere the other day, but obviously no goal contributions, just 1 clean sheet kept. His defensive stats are not particularly amazing apart from his clearances really. Wins less than 60% of his aerial duels as well. For a centre-half, that is pretty poor, considering that he is meant to be much more of a physical centre-half rather than a ball player. And like I say, they might just let his contract run out until the end of the season, but when he was brought in to be a starter, you would still expect him to be on starter wages, if that does make sense. I personally believe Walsall could spend that money better elsewhere on a different centre-half, on a much younger, fresher player as well, so I think Donervon Daniels should be sold this window. Morecambe FC was a pretty tricky one when you factor in their current financial situation. Every player is probably on about £20 a week. Paul Lewis though is the player who I have selected, obviously out of contract with the club in the summer. Out of all their very average at best players, who obviously Derek Adams gets the best out of him, I think Paul Lewis is currently contributing the least. Like I say, he's now 30 years of age, just 13 league appearances and only the 7 starts for him so far this season, and no goal contributions, and again, similar to Josh Vela at Carlisle, doesn't offer much defensively, wins barely any of his aerial duels, wins nearly 60% of his ground duels, which isn't awful, but apart from that, I just don't really see what he brings to the Morecambe side when he does play. Hasn't really played much. I mean, he's had the odd couple of games recently, but in the last couple of matches, not included in the squad or not even on the bench as well. So Paul Lewis for me. If you have to pick someone at Morecambe, I'd like to see him move on, especially with Callum Cook now signing for the football club. Crewe Alexandra again was a pretty tricky one. In the end, I have decided to go with Kane Hemmings. I believe he did sign it in the summer on a 1-year deal, but 33 years of age and hasn't quite lived up to the expectations so far this season. Has really struggled with injuries, hasn't played it since September, and I don't know how severe that injury is, but I just think then that wages could be spent better elsewhere. You don't really need to be spending money on a 33-year-old who is injured and hasn't played since September. His record is an awful 3 goals in 8 starts from him so far this season, averages a goal every 226 minutes with a 20% goal conversion rate, but for a 33-year-old to not have played since September, I think that money could be then better spent elsewhere, especially when Crewe are challenging for automatic promotion this season as well. So I'd like to see him move on from the football club, especially when he only wins 33% of his aerial duels. I think that money could be spent better elsewhere, but again, Crewe is a pretty tough one, to be honest. Tranmere Rovers are very similar to Carlisle in the fact you could pretty much pick any one of their players, to be honest with you, but Kieron Morris is the man who I have selected, out of contract with the club in the summer, now 30 years of age, and it looks like Nigel Adkins is going to get the full transfer window. I know he's played quite a lot of football recently for Tranmere, but 16 League 2 appearances, 13 starts, just 1 goal and 1 assist for him so far this season, a 4% goal conversion rate. I don't think Kieron Morris is pulling up any trees like a lot of Tranmere players haven't so far this season, and again, you could get somebody younger in, someone who's going to be a bit hungrier. Then Morris, sorry, let me try that again. The minutes that are given to Kieron Morris, surely somebody like a Sol Solomon could be better else used with their minutes when you're not going to reach the playoffs this season. You are in a little bit of a relegation battle. Why not change things up? Kieron Morris hasn't really provided the quality that you need in the final third so far this season, so why not give someone like a Sol Solomon a go? Salford City again was a pretty difficult one, but I have decided to go with Matty Lund. He has been a bit of a regular under Carl Robinson so far this season, but now 34 years of age, out of contract with the club in the summer, and hasn't quite hit the goal contribution heights. 3 goal contributions in 15 appearances. Only managed the 5 league starts as well so far this season. That's not great, to be honest with you. An 18% goal conversion rate and averaging a goal less than every 300 minutes. They are good statistics, but I can only assume he has struggled with injuries so far this season. And I know Salford are not short for cash, but I still personally believe this money could be better spent elsewhere. I know his last 4 appearances, he's got very good ratings according to SofaScore, but I just think the money could be spent better on more young, hungry players like what we've seen Salford bring in over the last couple of transfer windows, especially under Carl Robinson. I don't see Matty Lund getting a new contract by the end of next season, so why not try and get a bit of a transfer fee in for him now? Harrogate Town have a lot of very bang average in their side, and Levi Sutton absolutely epitomises that. Left Bradford City a couple of years ago, never really got many goal contributions, but always worked very hard. Now 28 years of age and hasn't really kicked on in his career. Just the 11 league starts for Town so far this season, only 16 total league appearances as well. No goal contributions. His defensive stats are not really amazing, apart from maybe balls recovered per game. He doesn't excel in any of the duels that he wins. Definite nail on for a yellow card most games as well, and I think Harrogate Town need a bit better. Then wages could be spent better elsewhere on maybe a more creative player or somebody who's going to get you the goals. Levi Sutton, he works very hard, but he doesn't really have much quality on the ball. He's a bit more of a worse version of Alex Gilliard for the Bradford City fans watching. Port Vale again was a very tricky one, but in the end I have decided to go with Ethan Chislett. Out of contract with the club in the summer, now 26 years of age, you could get a pretty decent fee in for him, to be honest with you, because he has proven pedigree at this level. Just so far this season, he hasn't really shown it. Just the 4 goals for him and 1 assist, 5 goal contributions in 20 appearances. That's 1 in every 4 or 1 in every 3 starts that he makes. It's not ideal for the money that he's probably on. Obviously signed for the club when they were in League One. Did okay last season, but under Darren Moore this season hasn't quite hit the heights. You look at his passing statistics, there's nothing really there that's excelling. Sometimes he plays as a holding midfielder for Port Vale, and that's why he's got the 94% passing accuracy in his own half. Defensively, he's not going to bring you much, doesn't win much in terms of duels, 50% successful, dribble rate isn't awful, but he only does 0.8 of them per game as well. So I think Ethan Chislett, cash in on him now and try and spend that money elsewhere on a much more productive player in the final third. Swindon Town again are very similar to Carlisle, Tranmere, them sort of clubs where they've got a lot of very bang average, and Paul Glatzel is a man who I personally believe it should be leaving the football club. 23 years of age, so you would get a okay transfer fee in for him, but he is out of contract with the club in the summer, and he's just never really scored goals, has Paul Glatzel. Just 1 goal for a striker so far this season. He's terrible in 22 total appearances, played over 1,100 minutes as well. 1 assist in there for him, 2 goal contributions in 22 appearances for a striker. You're looking at he's going to finish on about 4 come the end of the season. That is absolutely shocking. Swindon Town, if they want to get anything out of this season away from that relegation zone, they need better than players like Paul Glatzel. They need another striker who's going to get similar sort of numbers to Harry Smith, so I'd personally like to see him move on this transfer window. AFC Wimbledon was probably the trickiest one on there, so I've gone with Ryan McLean. Now, he actually did his ACL last season, but he's 24 years of age, hasn't really got much proven pedigree, hasn't really played much football, to be honest with you. The last time that he played was in the 23-24 season, where he only got the 1 start in that campaign. Even in the National League in the first half of that season, didn't really tear it up if these stats are accurate. No goal contributions in 10 appearances in the National League. It's just not particularly amazing. If Wimbledon have to sell somebody, I'm going to pick Ryan McLean, but they're absolutely flying this season, so I don't know what you're to do with that information. Accrington Stanley was a pretty difficult one, because when you factor in the size of club that Accrington are, the permanent players that they've got, none of them are really worth selling at this point. But J. Rich Baghelu, apologies, I've definitely pronounced that wrong. Obviously, the Australian is out of contract with the club in the summer, 25 years of age, some rare experience in their side, but I just think maybe them wages could be better spent elsewhere. I mean, I don't think he's played at all so far this season. Last season for Stanley, he didn't do awful in terms of his defensive stats, but hasn't played at all so far this season. Hasn't played since February, according to this. Surely that can't be right. Not playing since February is crazy. I know technically Jevani Brown is on loan at Notts County, but if possible, I would terminate that loan, send him back to Bristol Rovers. And didn't really understand when they brought him in, but now I believe that they need to go out and get a Dan Crowley replacement. Then wages that you're spending on Jevani Brown can go towards that. 30 years of age, was very good at Exeter a couple seasons ago, then went to Bristol Rovers where it didn't really work out. Has only managed to 4 starts for Notts County so far this season. No goal contributions for him, lacks creativity, doesn't score goals. I don't really see what he's offering. So if you can, send him back to Bristol Rovers and go spend them wages elsewhere. I know it's a loan, but Notts County squad's far too good. Newport County was pretty straightforward for me. I have gone with central defender James Clarke, out of contract with the club in the summer, 35 years of age, only managed the 5 starts for him so far this season, hasn't played since October, and I think he's just been on the bench for the large part. Defensively, absolutely terrible. Averages 3.8 clearances per game, and that's about it. For a centre-half to only win 53% of your aerial duels is terrible. Yes, he wins 87% of his ground duels, but he has only played the 5 matches. James Clarke, for me, should be one of the first players out the door this window. Before we do go any further, though, with today's video, don't forget to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Can we try and hit 200 likes on today's video? That would be massively appreciated. And don't forget to get your thoughts down in the comment section down below. You'll know your club a lot better than what I do. So if you had to sell one player this transfer window, who's the first player that you want to see leave your club? Doncaster Rovers are up next then, and I nearly went with Tom Anderson, a player I don't really rate whatsoever, but I've gone with Ben Close. I just think he needs a fresh start. He's had injury problems over the last couple of seasons with Doncaster, still contracted with the club until the end of next season, but surely his wages, his big wages as well, you would assume with him coming from Portsmouth, can be better spent elsewhere. Now 28 years of age, you'd still get a decent fee for him. I think he would be more than comfortable still playing at League 2 level, but just 3 starts and 7 total appearances. Really struggled with injuries this season as well. Obviously no goal contributions. He's a tidy midfielder. Defensively he can put himself about a little bit as well, but I just think Doncaster Rovers need to improve on players like Ben Close if they are to win promotion this season. Colchester United, very straightforward. Matt J really struggled for minutes so far this season. Now 28 years of age, out of contract with the club in the summer, and it's just been another terrible season for him. Hasn't played in the league whatsoever for Colchester so far this campaign, and hasn't played in the league for the club since last March, since nearly a year ago. I don't know what's happened to Matt J, because we go back to like the 2021 season where he was smashing it at Exeter, 18 goals, 7 assists in 43 appearances. Now he can't even get a single appearance at Colchester, who have really struggled for the large part of this campaign. Apart from their decent run recently, Matt J though absolutely needs a fresh start. Needs to go into non-league once again and reprove himself somewhere in there. On to my team, Bradford City then, and the obvious ones are Verdane Oliver, Tyler Smith, but I've spoke about them many times. I think we are kind of all preparing ourselves for the departure of Jamie Walker, which will be very sad. Obviously signed for the club 3 years ago originally on loan, and he's been an excellent servant. This season though, it just hasn't quite worked out for him. Wasn't in the starting plans at the beginning of the season, then because of injuries got his opportunity, didn't really take it though after the first couple of matches, and now finds himself on the bench quite a lot. Wasn't included in the last league squad. Now with George Lapsley, Brandon Kayla and Tommy Lee all joining the football club, I think Jamie Walker's minutes are going to be really limited, and he'll be one of our higher earners at the football club. Now 31 years of age, and in League 2 has only managed the 20 appearances but only 12 starts. Has still played nearly 1,200 minutes but only the 1 goal. 3 assists isn't awful, but I don't think he's got a goal contribution since like the middle of October, which isn't amazing. Pressing, he does very well at that. You know, he works really hard. He puts himself about, puts his tackles in, walk back out of a 50-50, and I think he's still more than good enough to play at League 2 level. I just think we've maybe moved slightly beyond Jamie Walker now. Last season was very good for us, got loads of goal contributions, especially towards the back end of the campaign. Only 27 starts, but 8 goals and 5 assists. He hasn't yet had a big injury, which he has done in every spell that he's had with Bradford City this season, so maybe we could try and get a transfer fee in for him before that injury does come, because he does get injured quite a lot, unfortunately. I do hope that he manages to stay injury free, but we've just not seen enough quality and end product from him so far this season. And there was lots of rumours that he's going to go to Carlisle in the summer, and I do expect him to still stay in League Two. I would wish him all the very best, because he has been a very good servant for us, but I do think now is the right time to move on. Fleetwood Town are up next then, and a lot of the players that I've suggested in this video have been, well, they're not good enough, they're too old, they're out of contract soon, get rid of them while you can. Brendan Weirdo, though, is a very different one. I think they need to cash in on him while his stock is very high. I understand he's a very important player to Fleetwood Town, but get the biggest transfer fee that you can, because if you wait until the summer, then he's only got a year left on his contract. You're running the line very thin there in terms of what sort of transfer fee you're going to get. Fleetwood are obviously not going to make the playoffs this season, or personally, I don't see it like that. And I think Weirdo, now is the best time to sell him in January as well. There's going to be offers from League One clubs. I think he's a very, very good player, one of the best centre-halves in this division. I know he has struggled with injuries so far this season, but recently has returned. He's been a very important player for the Cods so far this season. You look at them defensive stats, absolute monster at the back, but I think now is the best time to cash in, sell him while you can, and then maybe reinvest that money on some more younger players who then can be developed under Pete Wild. Let's then sell them for a profit, and then you've got a very good model going, because Fleetwood obviously a very small club. They need to get these sort of transfer sales done to survive as a football club. Now they've not got their owner pumping millions in every single season. So I personally believe Brendan Weirdo, now is the best time to sell him and get the highest possible transfer fee for him, because he's a very, very good player. Grimsby Town, there's a fair few different players that you could choose from. I've decided to go with Rakeel Pike. Some people would suggest Donervon Wilson, maybe Denver Hume as well, because he's suspect defensively, but now 27 years of age, out of contract with the club in the summer, hasn't scored, hasn't assisted, has only got the one league start so far this season. I know clearly must have struggled with injury problems between the middle of October and the middle of December, but just 7 league appearances and only the one start, not even played 200 minutes so far this season. It makes sense for all parties to try and get a transfer fee for him and maybe let him go out to non-league. I could basically copy and paste what I've just said there about Rakeel Pike for Jed Garner at Borough, out of contract with the club in the summer, into his mid to late 20s as well. Now hasn't really hit many heights so far this season. 3 goals in 16 league appearances, no assists in there, with a 12% goal conversion rate. He's also missed a further big chance as well so far this season. I think non-league is calling now for Jed Garner, unless he's going to go somewhere like a Morecambe on 500 quid a week. That's the best possible move I think he could get if he wants to stay in the AFL. I know Chesterfield have had a lot of injuries so far this season, but Jamie Grimes, if this is the same Jamie Grimes that I'm thinking of, just looking at his picture there, that's surely a very old one. I'm pretty sure he's got a man bun now. 34 years of age, out of contract with the club in the summer. When we played against him back in December, he was at fault for both the goals that we scored, especially that second one. Absolutely terrible first touch. Only the 8 starts for him so far this season, but 15 total league appearances, played nearly 1,000 minutes. Did get 2 goals, but defensively, you look at his stats here, absolutely awful. He's had 1 error, which has led directly to a goal. That was obviously when Sarswick scored his first for Bradford City. His clearances stats aren't awful, but you look at just the 1 clean sheet kept in that time, only 0.6 interceptions per game, 0.9 tackles per game. His dual statistics aren't awful, but I think if Chesterfield are serious about wanting to go back to back and get into League One, they need to improve on someone like a Jamie Grimes, in my opinion. Gillingham are up next then, and my favourite man, Johnny Williams, has to leave the football club. It's been an absolutely terrible time there, and I wonder if he could go back in time. Would he leave that hotel that he was put up in by Bradford City to go and make a U-turn at the last minute to sign for Gillingham? Because his time there has been nothing short of an absolute disaster. Just 3 league starts for him so far this season, 15 total appearances, just a 1 goal and 1 assist. You look at his time last season as well, no goals and 1 assist in 42. Absolutely horrible footballer. Was excellent for Swindon though in the 22-23 season, 10 goals and 2 assists, but it's just not worked out for him. We obviously in the end signed Alex Patterson, and despite his injury problems, he's got way more goal contributions than Johnny Williams, and yeah, I think he needs to leave the football club. I think a lot of Gills fans would agree that it actually didn't turn out too bad for Bradford City in making that U-turn. MK Dons was a pretty tricky one. In the end though, I've decided to go with Jack Tucker. Centre-half who is now 25 years of age. I think he's still more than good enough to play at League 2 level. Rumours he could be signing for Carlisle United, obviously relinking up with Mike Williamson. Hasn't played in the league for the club though since the middle of October. Has only managed the 7 league starts so far this season. Has failed to keep a clean sheet, but you look at his defensive defensive stats in isolation, they look pretty solid in all honesty. His dual stats are not awful either. I think he's more than competent enough to play at League 2 level. I just don't think he's good enough to play in a Scott Lindsay system. So I think if he goes to most teams, to be honest with you, in League 2 from 12th downwards, I think he'd smash it there, to be honest with you. Cheltenham Town, there was a few players that you could go with, potentially Tom Pett. I've decided to go with Matty Taylor. I think this one will be very hard to get off the books, in all honesty. I don't know why they gave him such a long-term contract. He's still contracted with the club until the end of next season. Now 33 years of age and has really struggled for minutes so far this season. Just a 1 goal in 5 starts, 17 total appearances for him. Obviously signed from rivals Forest Green. No assists and 8% goal conversion rate is absolutely shocking for a striker. He's just nowhere near good enough. He's probably on big wages as well. He's like 3rd or 4th choice striker. Absolutely miles off it. Cheltenham need to get rid of him this transfer window. And the final team that we'll talk about then in today's video is Bromley FC. Again, a pretty tricky one because I don't know too much about a lot of their players, but I've looked at Louis Dennis, now 32 years of age. You look at his stats, he struggled for minutes so far this season. Clearly had a bit of injury problems as well, but just the 4 league starts for him, only 9 total appearances, has scored 2 goals in that time and averages a goal every 208 minutes, which is not bad whatsoever with a 25% goal conversion rate. But if he had been available for more and he had played more, I don't think them stats would look as good, in all honesty, and I think it's about time that they move on from him. But there we have it then. There is one player that every League 2 club must sell this transfer window. Apart from Notts County, you need to terminate the loan of Jevani Brown. Hopefully you have all enjoyed. If you have, make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. 200 likes on today's video will be massively appreciated, and don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. You'll know your club a lot better than I do, so who needs to leave this transfer window?